Blessings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the channel today. Hope you're doing well wherever you may find yourselves. I'm Dane. You ever buy an album, take it home, put it on, you listen to it, and to your mind, and of course your ears, you think that it's undeniably, absolutely, positively one of the best albums you've ever heard, and you think, or you know, it's a masterpiece. Well, today I would like to talk with you about what I call false harbingers. And by that I mean great albums, mostly masterpieces, or close thereof, that we thought would usher in more greatness, a new era or another era, or continue an era, and a great album run, right, for this particular band or artist in some capacity. It could be continuing the run that's already in question, or there's a change in direction, a change in style, and we like it, and this is the future of things to come. But our hopes are dashed against the rocks because these albums end up being, unfortunately, lightning in a bottle. And so what follows, or in some cases may just be one, the one that follows, or the series of albums that follows, are disappointments. Now, will all these albums that I talk about that follow the said masterpiece stink? No. In some cases they will stink or suck, or they'll be terrible, or whatever synonym, adjective you want to use. Some are just mediocre. Some are maybe a step above mediocre, but they fail to reach the grandeur and greatness of said masterpiece. So overall they're disappointing. There's so many reasons, whether to change in style or they didn't meet your expectations. Of course, it is hard to top any masterpiece. That's just the name of the game. Lightning, more often than not, does not strike twice. Maybe later, but 2 in a row, or 3 or 4 in a row, right? Debatable. All right, so essentially the next album or series of albums does not compare. So the great album run that you were hoping for doesn't arrive. Now, that's not to say you won't have a comeback album or two or whatever later on, or an album run that's great or good later on, but there's these albums you have issue with or take issue with that are in between that. So let's go ahead and get started. There is no order here. However, I think the one that I talked to about last is the most disappointing for me. And at the end, I will also share with you, of these 54 or so albums in CD format, I will talk to you about the ones that disappointed me the most. So the video is kind of killing two birds with one stone. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, there's no order here, there's no ranking. So the first one I want to talk to you about is Some Girls. I think this is a great album, and I have the 2-disc version, which is just fabulous. Get some wonderful bonus material here. I've never liked the album cover, and there was a lawsuit for it, where they had to go back and put their own faces and get rid of the famous people. And of course, you know that Emotional Rescue is the follow-up, or most of you know. And while there's some tracks on that album that I like, and some people who originally, said it was, garbage or mediocre or what have you, have now, I forget what it's called. It's not revisionist history, but in their eyes, they've soaked it in over the years, and there's nothing wrong with it. I do that sometimes, and they like it. They would give it 3.5 or 4, even 5 stars. That I'm not one of those. I like maybe 4 songs off of Emotional Rescue, but this is what I think is the last great Rolling Stones album. Although I do like Tattoo You, but it doesn't compare to this one. So in my eyes, you never get a really great album run after this one. This is the end of, you could say, for me anyway, the Rolling Stones era that I love. Okay, next is The Who, and I'm talking about Quadrophenia. There's some filler on here, but overall, this is a very good album. This is a masterpiece in so many regards. There's a couple songs I don't like, and maybe 1 or 2 songs is filler, but you have some wonderful The opening of I Am the Sea, The Real Me, and the title track, and Cut My Hair is just great. I really don't care for Bellboy in the Dirty Jobs, but the way that the album ends with Love Reign Over Me is just fantastic. This isn't a masterpiece, it's close. I'm gonna call it a masterpiece. And of course, after this, you get The Who by Numbers, and there's an interview somewhere, I forget if it was Daltrey or Townsend, that admitted that they were phoning it in, or began phoning it in at this point. I wish I could find that article. I'm having trouble tracking it down. One of my students, when I was at a different school, pointed this out to me, and I looked it up and I printed it, and I can't find it. But anyway, so The Who by Numbers is in many regards, for many, a 4-star album. For me, it's like a 2.5. So I rarely ever listen to it. All right, I have props for most of these. For this one, I do not. Van Halen's Fair Warning. What a fabulous album. And the follow-up, Diver Down, could not have been more disappointed as far as Van Halen goes. And even 1984, I thought was a disappointment. The heaviest song on that is House of Pain, which I love. I think it's the last track on that album. The keyboards and all, it just doesn't do anything for me. As far as Diver Down is concerned, the band tried to recapture some of the glory of the first album by having, that heavy intro and then going into the remake of Oh Pretty Woman. It's okay, it's not great. There's some covers. It's just not. I don't want to say Van Halen was phoning it in, but they were stretching for material that it just didn't have, and this is the lackluster effort you get. So anyway, Fair Warning is the masterpiece. Diver Down is the disappointment. Sabotage by Black Sabbath. I think this is a masterpiece, and it is my favorite Black Sabbath album. Has been for the last 2 or 3 years. And of course, the follow-up albums, Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die, very disappointment in most of us Sabbath fans' eyes. Next, my favorite Yes album, Relayer. Do I like the follow-up? Going for the One, yes and no. If we talk about the cover art for a minute for Going for the One, looks like you stole the Rush mascot there with the guy with the buttocks hanging out, but no star. To do that too, right? Instead, you have the Hypnosis album cover with him standing in front of the buildings with these crazy arrows. This is a horrible album cover by Hypnosis, but as far as the music goes, I like some of it. There's one song that has like this hokey sound as far as guitar tone goes. I don't know what Steve Howe was thinking. It sounds kind of country-ish or bluegrass, or I'm not sure what's going on, but that's beside the point, really. It's one example, but I like part of it. It doesn't compare to the grandeur that is. I thought we were going to get more Patrick Moraz. No, we get a return. And I like Wakeman more than Moraz, but there was some charm to what Moraz was doing. So I like both of them quite a lot. But what Wakeman does on that one just doesn't do anything for me or much. So anyway, great album. This, for me, is the end of Yes's magic. Tormato, Drama. The only thing I like about Drama is Machine Messiah, and a lot of my friends I talk to and people I listen to on YouTube and other places say the same thing, but a lot of people do like the whole album too. So anyway, again, this is just opinion. Next, a lot of people feel the same way. Meatloaf's debut is his best album. Of course, you get Bat Out of Hell 2 much later, the 90s, which is fabulous. Then you get Bat Out of Hell 3 a little while after that. That's decent. I wish it was all Jim Steinman instead of Jim Steinman and I can't remember his name, but the guy who's, Desmond Child. So what a great album. Not everyone's cup of tea. It's mine. I like this. Got made fun of this for liking this in high school. But anyway, I love this album. Dead Ringer is okay. It's not great. Doesn't have the charm of this. I'll go as far as say Dead Ringer is not mediocre. It's good. It's not great. It's not a masterpiece. This is a masterpiece. And of course, there is no great run after this. After this, the story, or most of you, or many of you do. Something was going on with Meatloaf physically, psychological, with respect to his vocal cords. So Jim Steinman took the songs and made his own album. that was so that album, which is called Bad for Good, the Jim Steinman album, was supposed to be a Meatloaf album, and that would have been glorious. Of course, some of the albums that find its way onto Bad for Good end up on Bad Out of Hell 2. Thank goodness. So there you go, Bad Out of Hell. Next, I'm not sure which of these. Well, this is the Masterpiece Suite. This is quite good as well. So the one that comes after this, Level-Headed, which I'm fond of, but it pales in comparison to these two. And if we're not going to include I'm not Level-Headed as the quote-unquote disappointment, although I do like it. It's grown on me. Definitely then we would count Cut Above the Rest as the stinker, and to me, Cut Above the Rest is the stinker. So anyway, this is wonderful. This was a letdown, but I still like it. Level-Headed was more of a letdown than this, and then the definite letdown was Cut Above the Rest. So little different from what I presented so far. So there's a couple of these where I present 2 or 3. Not quite. I'm on the fence about which one is the disappointment. So there you have it. This is a great album. This is the album that got me into the band. Talking about some power metal, some German power metal, except, and while I like Balls to the Wall, I like about half of it or 2/3. A lot of the songs are just, This is a masterpiece. And while I like Metal Heart, there's a live album that comes out of that, To Save a Life or something like that, and it's pretty much Russian Roulette is just dreadful. And I've tried as I might, nothing except is done, even with the new singer from TT Quick. Well, he's not new anymore. It's a string of albums, right? Blood of Nations is okay. The one with the snake on the cover is okay, but nothing like this. All right. Trick of the Tail from Genesis. I like Wind and Wuthering, the follow-up, but boy, talk about Phil Collins stepping into Peter Gabriel's shoes and hitting it right out of the park. This is fabulous, and of course, there's some good stuff on Wind and Wuthering, but What Gorilla, and my favorite song on the follow-up to this is Blood on the Rooftops. I just love that song. Sometimes I'll listen to this. I have a playlist where I put this plus that song as my playlist. This is just amazing. I mean, Dance on a Volcano, Entangled Squonk, Mad Mad Moon, Robbery, Assault and Battery, A Trick of the Tail, Los Endos. Oh man, and most of these find its way on to the live album where Steve Hackett was on his Seconds Out. Steve Hackett was on his way out. So anyway, this is a masterpiece if you ask me, beginning the Phil Collins era of Genesis, on vocals of course. This next one I have 2, because this is the masterpiece. This was a bit of a disappointment, but not as bad as Sacred Heart. Introducing keyboards, and of course, part of the reason is Vivian Campbell having he was promised certain amounts of money, so he says, and I tend to believe him and not Wendy, Dio's widow, and so I don't want to get into that, but I do believe Vivian Campbell was promised that, but because he's not in full, creative mode, because he's worrying about being paid and being given his due, I think that's why the lack of energy that we have on these two is missing on Sacred Heart. It's too poppy, it's too commercial. Introducing keyboards. A long time ago, Dio said he wasn't into keyboards, but you get that on Dream Evil, you get a lot of that after that. So anyway, Sacred Heart, the disappointment. Pink Floyd, this is for many. The Wall, great album, masterpiece, definitely for many of us, a lot of us. And while I like the final cut, I would say it's just above mediocre. This is dynamite. All right. A little Queen here, News of the World. I bought Jazz, so excited. Jazz is so disappointing. When I heard Mustafa for the first time, which I think is the first track, why do you put it as the opening track? I don't get the song. I don't get what the band was thinking, let alone Freddie Mercury. remember the last time I listened to it was last summer, and I thought to myself, there are 4 good songs here, nothing great. Anyway, News of the World, masterpiece. Jazz, I think, is a stinker, mostly. All right. Whitesnake 87, masterpiece. Do I like Slip of the Tongue? Yes, pales in comparison. It's got like 4 good songs on it. The rest of it's pretty much weak tea, if you ask me. I never thought Steve Vai was a good fit. John Sykes, great fit. Vandenberg taking his place, or other way around. I always mix that up. Either way, I like Vandenberg. I like John Sykes. Great album. All right. I did a retrospective on this one a while back. Members of the original lineup of this album, the original lineup of this band had disowned this in a way, saying this is not a true Aerosmith album. I could not disagree more. Because after this you get Done with Mirrors, which I thought was below mediocre. I don't own it, not anymore. I had it on vinyl. I like the Joe Perry Project Become Aerosmith song, Let the Music Do the Talking. It's okay. Be honest with you, I like the Joe Perry version better. And then after Done with Mirrors, you get the Desmond Child swan dive into commercialism that drives me bonkers to this day. Last great album. It's unfortunate that album before this, Not in the Ruts, is the stinker in the great album run going all the way back to the first album. Anyway. Right, next one. This band used to be a 3-piece, a trio, and then they added keyboards, and I like it, at least for this album. Or an American Band, I think, is a masterpiece despite the album cover. Got the title track, Stop Looking Back, is wonderful. Creepin' is fabulous. Love Black Licorice. I love the wailing. The Railroad is amazing. Ain't Got No Body. Walk Like a Man, Loneliest Rider. You got some bonus tracks here. Hooray in the End, a couple other bonus tracks. Alternate takes or remakes of Stop Looking Back and We're American Band. Shining On, thought was a disappointment. Remember being a kid and hearing a Locomotion like, ugh. So make of that what you will. And then it gets worse from there after that. Phoenix before this, not a fan. All right. For this album, this was a reunion album for this wonderful 70s heavy hitting hard rock band. The moment many of us heard that first Hammond organ intro from John Lord, we're like all in, right? This is a masterpiece if you ask me, or this close to being one. And then they put out House of Blue Light. I like one song on that album, and that's Bad Attitude. And it goes in, and I've pretty much everything after House of Blue Light, which I think is a stinker except for one song. I've tried and tried again to want to like these Deep Purple albums. I just don't. This is where it ends for me, folks, plus one song that comes after that. That's it. That's just can't help the way I feel. All right. In a similar vein, same lead singer, Ian Gillan, different band, One and Done, Born Again. This comes out, and many of us are thinking to ourselves, wow, 2 in 1. You got one of my favorite. We got one of our favorite bands in Black Sabbath, and we got one of our favorite bands, their vocalist at least, Ian Gillan. Let's see how this works. This is not a masterpiece, but it's quite good. It's very good. We wanted more, right? We don't get it because of, as it happened, because of this. Oh well, it is what it is. All right, Badlands, don't have a physical copy. What a great debut. What a great album. And while Voodoo Highway is nice, it's not a masterpiece. The debut is. I love a good debut album that's a masterpiece, but it pales in comparison. And the third one's really all that not good. Anyway, so Badlands, great album, and rest is history. Sad story too. All right, next is Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I don't listen to this album anymore, but I would include it here because when I was a Guns N' Roses fan, this was my only go-to album. I wanted to like what followed. I thought Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 were disappointing at best. They should have taken the best of both of those albums and made it into one and discarded the rest, and maybe did it like a not a reissue, but well, something along those lines, like a here's what we left off the album type album, right? That kind of thing. Forget what that's called. Anyway, so Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. The debut for Montrose. Wow. Again, talk about a great debut. Paper Money. Montrose himself is wanting to take some of the spotlight away from Sammy. Perhaps jealous of Sammy's guitar skills and vocal prowess. Not sure, but it just doesn't fly compared to the original. There's some okay songs on it, but Montrose for me is pretty much a one and done. I don't even listen to Paper Money anymore. All right, little Celtic Frost here. This is a reunion album, but after this they broke up, so I'm including it as part of this. This is, I think, fantastic. We got excited, us Celtic Frost fans. It's a great album, but they broke up, and then you have Triptykon, formed by Thomas Gabriel Warrior. Next, sophomore effort. Do I like what follows? Long Live Rock and Roll. I do, but pales in comparison to this. It's good. It's not great. So it's not a stinker, but it pales in comparison to this masterpiece that is Rainbow Rising. All right. Back in Black from AC/DC. What followed, we heard the great song on that album, the opening title, the title track, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, great song. Rest of the album, kind of a snooze fest, mostly. I only listened to that one song on that album. So for me, Back in Black is where there's moments on Fly on the Wall that I like. I like a few tracks on Flick of the Switch, but overall, nothing recaptured the glory of Back in Black. All right, Hotel California from the Eagles. The long run's okay, pales in comparison. Right. That's all I'll say about that. Very brief about that. Presence from Led Zeppelin. Do I like In Through the Outdoor? Absolutely. This is disappointing compared to Physical Graffiti, but there's some great songs on here. Achilles' Last Stand, my favorite song on the album. A Love for Your Life. I take that back. Nobody's Fault But Mine is my favorite. Achilles' Last Stand is my second. A Love for Your Life, as I said, Royal Orleans is brief, but I like it. Candy Store Rock is great. Hot Sun for Nowhere, great. T for One, very like a throwback to Since I've Been Loving You. It's okay, I like it. I think this is a great album. Maybe not a masterpiece, but it's close. Short, but I like it. Okay, Orgasmatron from Motorhead. I think this is short of a masterpiece, considering Clark leaves the band. And of course, 1916 follows this. I think it's a good album. Pales in comparison to this, and there's some albums that just aren't my cup of tea. Mickey D joins the band. You get Bastards and March or Die. There's not much for me that I like there, and it's the one after that where Motorhead gets the run going. So, Orgasmatron. All right, some power metal here. Operation Mindcrime. I like Empire and Promised Land a bit. They're good or very good. They're not great. They're not masterpieces. This is a masterpiece. Operation Mindcrime. All right. Debut. Another debut. I see a pattern here. Boston's debut. Do I like Don't Look Back? I sure do. Pales in comparison in this debut. There's a little bit more softness going on in Don't Look Back. Don't Look Back would have fit nice on this album, but I get why they didn't put it. Great album. Blue Oyster Cult, Fire of Unknown Origin, great album. What follows? Oh boy, Revolution by Night. Could not have been, as far as Blue Oyster Cult goes, could not have been more disappointed. At least I thought, because there's some stinkers after that. This was great, considering how much I don't care much for Mirrors or Cultus Erectus. There's a few songs I like Black Blade and that sort of thing, but there's 2 or 3 songs on those that I like. 6 songs from 2 albums. Not impressed at all. Right? This is wonderful. All right. From New Orleans, home that I'm from, Zebra's first album. This is Dynamite. No Telling Lies has its moments, especially the title track, but more importantly, Wait Till the Summer's Gone, which could have been put in here because it was a song while this was going on. They didn't put it. I get why. Would have made this album stronger. It would have made the sophomore album much weaker. This is great. This is a masterpiece. No telling lies, and everything after this pales in comparison, big time after this. All right, there's some great songs here and there, but overall, no. Now here's one of those where I'm presenting two of them. Def Leppard, this is their masterpiece. There's a little falling off with this, but once you get to Hysteria, I'm out. So these two, I'm counting kind of like as one. Oops. These are the masterpieces, although this one's better. Better masterpiece. If that, you can have more than one masterpiece as an artist. Picasso, right? Tchaikovsky, Beethoven, Mozart, Rush. Okay, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin. So Hysteria, it's where they get soft, get commercial, lose their hard rock edge. I get Pete Willis is gone, and I get why. So good for him. You know, health reasons, alcohol, addiction, got himself cleaned up. Just sad that don't get that power punch that we used to have with them. Phil Collins, me, not a guitar player I like all that much. Anyway. All right. Shout out to Devil. Original album cover released not too long ago. Great album. First two albums are wonderful. You get ga 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 ga, and then you get Theater of Pain. Dung 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 dung. Ugh. And even the band admits, or at least Vince Neil in The Dirt in the book admits that to his guy running the show, the engineer or producer or whoever, I forget his name, that was garbage. So, all right. Let's see, Lost My Place. 2 Steps from the Move, Hanoi Rocks. They get Bob Ezrin of Alice Cooper to come in and make things nice and wonderful. And it has an Alice Cooper vibe. It's not Alice Cooper, has an Alice Cooper vibe. Then you get follow-up 12 Shots on the Rocks, comes out many years later. So disappointing. There's a big span between these two albums. Anyway, my favorite and their last great album. This and the debut is my favorite. This is a bonus disc version or bonus track version. All right. Metallica. You know what's coming, right? Justice for All. Do I like the Black Album? Yeah, but it's soft in a few spots. Nothing else matters. Not as heavy, right? So make of that what you will. Kiss, Creatures of the Night. Comeback album of sorts. Sometimes I argue it is, sometimes I argue it's not. Best songs are the title track, I Love It Loud, I Still Love You, and War Machine. 4 out of 9 are amazing. Then you got 2 songs that are good, and then the rest is just okay. So maybe a comeback. Definitely better than The Elder and Unmasked. Of course, I like Lick It Up. I don't like much that follows. If anything, Lick It Up pales in comparison, if you ask me, to this. Anyway. I like it, not as good as this. Let's see. Debut again. Again, Pattern. Love this album. Discover this 16 years old in high school, sophomore, and then The Last Command comes out and we hear the first single, Wild Child, and we're all stoked. Man, that's my favorite Wasp song on the second album. The rest of the album, don't listen to anymore. So, all right, little Black Sabbath again, Dehumanizer. Thought Ronnie's back, yay. Nope. Then we get Cross Purposes with Tony Martin. To me, that's a stinker. I like Headless Cross and Tear. Don't like Cross Purposes or anything else he did with Black Sabbath, especially Forbidden. This is fabulous, or close to fabulous. All right, I got 2 from Fleetwood Mac, and you'll see why in a minute. They're not back-to-backs. So we're talking about Peter Green era, then Play On. This is their masterpiece of the Peter Green era. And then, of course, they break up, or rather, Peter Green leaves the band. Fleetwood Mac comes back with a new lineup led by Bob Welch on guitar and vocals. It's that California feel, no longer British blues, but that California, sunny San Francisco pop rock sound, which some of it I like. Mystery to me, Kiln House is comes after Disappointment. I do like Bare Trees though. This is my favorite album by them. And then of course, after the Bob Welch era, you get Fleetwood Mac, and then you get Rumors, the masterpiece for this era of them being more pop. And then you get Tusk, double album, like Use Your Illusion, make it a single. It wouldn't have been this, it'd been better. There's a lot of filler on that. I know a lot of people hail that as Tusk as a masterpiece. I just don't. Anyway, next is Styx, and it's a twofer, but not back to back like I did with others. The first is Pieces of Eight, great album, perhaps their heaviest. And then they put out Cornerstone. And at first I didn't like Babe. I do like it. I don't listen to it as much. It is one of Dennis DeYoung's best ballads, if not one of Styx's best ballads. I hate that bubbly intro though. If they could leave that part out, maybe put piano instead, it would be a better song. And then the rest of it does nothing for me. It's okay. So, and then the second one, this comes out. This is a masterpiece, as is Pieces of Eight. And of course the stinker after this. So I'm calling Cornerstone the stinker. This is a masterpiece, as is Pieces of Eight. The stinker after this, is Duh, Kilroy Was Here. I like two songs. Point of No Return, Kansas. After this, you get Monolith. I like People of the South Wind, another song or two. Overall, big old disappointment for yours truly. I love Point of No Return. I thought with this and Leftover Tour, we're going to get a nice run. Not really. Audio Visions is okay. It's not nothing to rave about, if you ask me. Anyway. All right. Love from the Cult. Not a big 80s new wave band, but there was something special about Love. Do I like Electric and Sonic Temple? When it comes to those two albums, Electric is their AC/DC album. I'm not the first person to say that. Won't be the last. So I can't take credit for that. We all hear that, right? Love Removal Machine, the intro was borrowed from a Mott song, the band after Mott the Hoople. It's the first song on Drive In or Drive On, with the first album with Mott, with the lead singer from London. Anyway, I can't remember his name, but just love the Love album, and my sister got me into it. It's my favorite Cult album. Electric is good. I like it. It's not great. I wanted more of the sound from the Love album. That change in direction was hugely a disappointment for me. And then I thought maybe they'd go back to that on the next, and then you get Sonic Temple, and then you hear, first thing you hear is, hey, hey, baby, have you heard the news? Okay, now we're copying Led Zeppelin. It's okay, I guess. I like Firewoman. I like those songs, or most of them, but I wanted more Love. All right. Santana 3. This is where Neil Schon joins the band. Thought we'd get more of that. Nope. He leaves with Greg to form Journey. Then we get Caravanserai, which is wonderful, but it's not the same. And so in that regard, it's disappointing. I wanted more of this. I wanted a run. I wanted 3 or 4 more albums that sound like the first 3 Santana albums with Neil Schon added and Greg Rowley. No, we don't get it. All right, some Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith. This, for me personally, is the last great Judas Priest album. There's some things that come after this that I like song-wise, but I'm one of the negative Nellies when it comes to Turbo. Too commercial, too soft, too 80s. You know, it's essentially like Judas Priest in many ways doing a Bon Jovi album. I don't want that. I don't want my Aerosmith. I don't want my Judas Priest. I don't want my Kiss sounding like Bon Jovi. At least Desmond Child, as far as I know, had nothing to do with Judas Priest, thank goodness. But still, Turbo has that commercial 80s vibe that I don't want. All right. This is Jazz Fusion. Oh, no, not yet. Almost there. Anthrax. My favorite Anthrax album. And Among the Living, I liked a lot in high school. But as a man in his late 50s, and probably in the last 20 years, or 30, 25 years, I would say about 5 or 6 years after Among the Living came out, I stopped listening to it, ballparking that time frame. Silly. I don't like silliness in my music, so I'm not a big Zappa fan. I'm more into his fusion stuff like Hot Rats and Waka Jawaka and The Great Wazoo and Shut Up and You Play Your Guitar 1 and 2. I think there's a 3 maybe. I like Sleep Dirt. I don't like campiness. I don't like silliness in my music. I take it seriously. I want it to be serious. Has some gravity to it. So when you have a band like Anthrax having their song titles meant to be read backwards, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Then they do rap with UTFO. Then they do an EP which has a great rendition of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath on it. But then they do, some rap metal. I just not my cup of tea. They do have a comeback album in later when Joey Belladonna returns, and worship music after the Bush era. So a lot with State of Euphoria, don't care for that. A lot of what follows this, don't care for. All right, so Persistence of Time is decent. All right, now some jazz fusion. This is his masterpiece. I'm talking about Al Di Meola's Elegant Gypsy. You have some wonderful heavy guitar on this. Race with the Devil on Spanish Highway is what I'm thinking, and there's other great guitar on here. I like the guitar style of Al Di Meola on this. This is blasphemy, but I like his style on here better than Eddie Van Halen ever did. This is heavy metal jazz fusion, if you want to call it that. I got this from my brother-in-law for his birthday a couple weeks ago. I don't think he's listened to it yet. Also got him something else, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow in my Jazz and a Cup of Coffee series, but that's tomorrow. So anyway, it's Now My Love. But anyway, so Al Di Meola, this is fabulous. If you've not heard this and you like heavy guitar and fusion music, this is going to knock your socks off. A little flamenco, heavy flamenco type stylings, right? Sort of. All right, now let me make sure I save the two of them for last. Now, this next one, I'm a big fan of. Okay. Love this album. Is it as good as the one before it? Downward Spiral? No. It's close. What follows this with Teeth is mediocre at best. So, disappointed in that. Alice in Chains' debut, my favorite. I'm not a big fan of Dirt. I like 4 songs. Down in the Hole, a couple others. I just have it on MP3 now. I gave the CD to one of my students since I didn't want to throw it in the trash, and Goodwill wasn't taking music at that day. I wanted to drop it off, so I just give it to one of my students. He doesn't have it. Anyway, so it's a little hair metal-y here. Has some grunge feel to it, but overall, great album. And while I like the EP, Sap and Drawer of Flies, I like Black Gives Way to Blue, nothing compares to this. All right, another debut, Cynic's first album, the only one I like by Cynic. I've tried to like their other stuff. I get they're experimenting and moving away from this heavy stuff with the death metal vocals through a vocoder, right? I'm not a big death metal type person that has that sound to it, sort of. I do like it here for some reason. Traced in Air, the follow-up, doesn't do anything for me. All right, third to last. Great album, Red. You have a wonderful album. Wonderful album, and a wonderful song closer, and a wonderful song in general. That is the magic and beauty of Starless. You have powerful, moving, emotional vocals to start off Starless with John Wetton's beautiful voice. Great voice. We miss him dearly, of course. And then, by degrees, the song gets heavier and heavier. It has like 6 different overdrives, right? It's jazz and jazz fusion and even heavy metal thrown in with some sax. It's just fabulous. Great album, great song, great closing song in Starless. And of course, Discipline. You get Adrian Belew making his guitar sound like an elephant. You got Thela Hun Jujit, which drives me crazy. You got a couple good songs in there, but overall, that red, blue, and yellow period, 3 of a perfect pair period, I don't like. Beat, right? Beat is my least favorite of those three. I do like quite a few tracks on 3 of Perfect Pair because you have Lark's Tongues and Aspic Part 3 and some industrial sounding. So, but overall, disappointing when you go back to this trilogy of these, of these 3 plus Jamie Weir and David Cross on the other 2. So, Starless and Bible Black, and of course, the wonderful Lark's Tongues and Aspic. I think this is a masterpiece, as are the other 2. So you have 3 masterpieces in a row, or thereabouts. Now, final 2, and then we'll talk about which of these disappointed me most to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. After the abysmal, oh God, now I can't even remember the name of the album before this. That has John Sloman on. Pardon me. This was a nice treat. I'm 13 when this comes out, so we're talking about Abominog. This is a 2-fer. It's got the other album. The one that follows, Head First, you can kind of see the desert album cover underimposed under that. Abominog is fabulous. Yes, it's melodic hard rock. It's not the Uriah Heep We Know and Love, but it's in my top 15. I did a video on that. Too Scared to Run, kind of heavy metalish. Chasing Shadows is nice. On the Rebound, Hot Night in a Cold Town, I just love. Running All Night with the Lion, That's the Way That It Is a great melodic pop rocker. Prisoner is a nice ballad. Hot Persuasion is great. Sell Your Soul, heavy metalish again. And then Thinking Over is a nice heavy ballad, if you will. I love this album. Hate the album cover, this demonic looking monkey's paw / creep show, the creature in the box looking thing, the eyes, right? But regardless, I thought this was a heavy metal album. I thought they were going heavy metal when I bought this. I had to hide this from Mom and Dad. But it's melodic hard rock. Peter Golby sounds like he's doing his best to be Mick Jones from Foreigner. Lou Gramm, excuse me. Whether that's intentional or not, doesn't matter. It's fabulous. If you haven't heard this, you got to get this. And there's parts of Head First I like, but I wouldn't say it's a stinker. But for me personally, after Abominog, there's little left to like, and that's sad. Anyway, finally, you knew it was coming. This comes out, and somewhere along the line in an interview, Neil Peart says, "This is when we became Rush." And I thought to myself, oh, are you kidding me? You're throwing your previous albums under the bus? Or disowning them, or oh man. I love everything from the debut, as derivative and unperfect as the debut is. Is it great? No. But if we count that, but definitely with Fly By Night through and including this and the live albums of Exit Stage Left after this and All the World's a Stage, 2 of my favorite live albums of all time. This is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, album run of all time, in my humble opinion. Of course, I'm biased. This is my favorite band. And then when I first heard Signals, I'm like, go, 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 go. You know, New World Band. I'm like, what the hell is this? Of course, the album warms up on me. Do I love it? Signals? No. It's good. It's not great. I would say it's slightly above mediocre. Slightly. I have to look at my list of terms that I've talked about before. And then Grace Under Pressure comes out, and I didn't like that when I first heard it either, but that one grew on me in a much better way than Signals. So between Signals and Grace Under Pressure, I like Grace Under Pressure a bit more. Now, I do like Signals, as I said. They've grown on me, but those two pale in comparison to this. So it begs the question. In no respect to Neil, I have his picture on my wall. He's my favorite drummer of all time. We all miss him dearly if we're fans. But I'm not going to agree with everything an artist or band does. I'm not going to agree with everyone's musical change in direction. So no disrespect. But if this was where you became Rush, why didn't you continue in a similar vein? Not the same. You don't want the same. You don't want 10 million Bat Out of Hells in a row. You don't want 13, Triumph Allied Forces in a row. You don't want, 6 physical graffitis, it would get stale, right? You want some movement. I talked about this David Bowie about experimenting in a different video, and you want to do that. This is why this is a success. This is why Permanent Waves is a success. That's why Fly By Night is a success after the debut, experimentation. But when you become so far removed from your original, is where I ask the right prompts. And then, okay, so after getting used to and liking signals and Grace Under Pressure, you get Power Windows, Hold Your Fire, Show Your Hands, a live album. I'm out for those, except for a couple songs here and there. To me, those are stinker albums for the most part. Then you get, not necessarily in this order, you get Presto, where I only like 2 songs. You get Roll the Bones, where I only like 3 songs. A lot of the stuff on there is too bubbly. You get Test for Echo, and I only like 2 or 3 songs on that. You get the grunge album. Don't know why people think it's grunge, but got an argument with a commenter on my channel once about that. I just don't see it as grunge. Counterparts, I like a few songs. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's the comeback album people claim it is. I love Vapor Trails, and I like quite a bit their last 2 studio albums. But there's this too long of a run after this where there's not enough greatness going on. So obviously you can tell I've already started. This is the most disappointing. I'm sorry, this is not the album. The album that follows this is the beginning of the most disappointing run for Rush. What I'm trying to say is after this album is where things begin to go downhill for me personally with regard to my taste in Rush's music. And then, of course, you get the comeback stuff, thank goodness. So let's talk about what are the other biggest disappointments. I won't show you the albums again, but let me go back. So After Relayer was one of my biggest disappointments when you get Going for the One, when you get Cut Above the Rest for Sweet after those 3 albums I talked about, Sacred Heart from Dio, disappointment. The Final Cut from Pink Floyd, Jazz from Queen, Slip of the Tongue from Whitesnake, Done with Mirrors from Aerosmith. I left one out. I forgot Brave New World from Iron Maiden. I love this album, but the disappointment was Dance of Death. That's not one of my big disappointments, but I failed to mention that one. House of Blue Light, Deep Purple, one of my biggest disappointments. Use Your Illusion from Guns N' Roses. Paper Money from Montrose. The Long Run from the Eagles. In Through the Outdoor from Led Zeppelin. Here's another one I forgot. All Shook Up from Cheap Trick. Dream Police was a masterpiece. Meant to mention that one. That's one of my biggest disappointments. Revolution by Night, Blue Oyster Cult. Hysteria, Def Leppard. Theater of Pain, Motley Crue. The Black Album from Metallica. Kilroy Was Here, Styx. Turbo, Judas Priest. And Signals from Rush, as I said. So if you have some you would like to share that I have not listed, or you'd like to disagree, feel free. Tell me why you think Signals or Grace Under Pressure is a masterpiece, or tell me why you think Casino by Al Di Meola is a masterpiece, and that sort of thing. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget, tomorrow I'm continuing my series Jazz and a Cup of Coffee. I look forward to that very much. I hope you join me. Take care now. Bye.